In April 2025, a news report sliced through the polished image of the Pawn Star celebrity like a cold, sharp blade, a man once adored by millions for his sharp business wit. He was arrested, accused of being the mastermind behind an international criminal organization. Human trafficking, money laundering, illegal antiquities trading, organized abuse, chilling charges echoed through the federal courtroom, all pointing at a once-beloved icon. As Rick was escorted into the courtroom, wrists in steel cuffs, his gaunt face and vacant stare told a tale of a fallen star, his former glory reduced to ash. But an even more disturbing question lingered: had we worshipped a false idol all these years only to realize we'd been duped by a carefully crafted mask of fame? Or is this entire case a grand illusion, a power play orchestrated by hidden forces, with Rick Harrison as the pawn sacrificed in a much larger game? Join us as we step inside the courtroom where the curtain begins to lift and the truth starts to bleed through. The federal courtroom in Las Vegas was cloaked in a suffocating silence, the air seemingly frozen as the doors swung open. All eyes turned to the man who entered, Rick Harrison, the pawnshop king of Pawn Stars, once beloved by millions for his charm and uncanny ability to appraise the rarest of artifacts. But today, Rick was no longer a shining television icon. He stood as the defendant in a grim criminal trial, facing allegations tied to an international crime empire. The once vibrant face familiar to audiences was now gaunt, etched with deep lines carved by time and pressure. His once perceptive eyes, known for spotting hidden treasures, now appeared hollow, lifeless. His footsteps, slow and heavy, carried the weight of what seemed like an entire mountain of guilt. The 200-page indictment was a cold, gleaming blade that laid bare a sinister network: human trafficking, illicit antiquities trade, money laundering, and organized abuse. The gold and silver pawnshop, long seen as a symbol of the American dream, was now revealed as the beating heart of a criminal machine. The valuable antiques once carefully presented by Rick on television were now suspected of being mere covers for coded human lives, people imprisoned, cataloged, and exchanged like merchandise. Ledger books hidden in Rick's safe told a chilling story. Scribbled notes like Rare Item 1974 didn't refer to vintage timepieces, but to trafficking victims. Encrypted emails from Serbia and Dubai unveiled transactions of looted Syrian relics, like a shipment of Persian ceramic vases worth $120,000 smuggled through Istanbul. Cash transactions laundered through Las Vegas casinos, $200,000 cleaned in just 3 weeks, all traced back to the glowing lights of his pawnshop. Testimonies from victims and witnesses struck like knives, shredding Rick's public image and raising terrifying questions about what lay beneath. Jane, a young woman rescued in Reno, recounted through trembling lips during interrogation, "They called me an antique item, code number 1974. I heard crying from the wooden crates in the dark." A former employee, voice choked with emotion, admitted, "He controlled everything. He called it special business, but I knew something was wrong." These chilling details painted a portrait of a stranger, a Rick Harrison not as a television star, but as the mastermind behind a ruthless network. Yet when prosecutors displayed a sprawling financial diagram with Rick at the center of a web of crime, one question hovered in the air: was this the truth, or a perfectly orchestrated performance? The hashtag #RickHarrison death sentence spread like wildfire before the trial, fueled by leaks from anonymous sources. Could Rick simply be a pawn in a much larger game, thrust into the eye of the storm to protect the real puppeteers? But what if it was all a trap? Rick Harrison, the pawnshop king of Pawn Stars who once captivated millions with high-stakes auctions and sharp deals, now stands accused of masterminding a criminal empire, human trafficking, illicit antiquities trade, money laundering, and organized abuse. But how could a public figure constantly under the scrutiny of cameras and fans run such a complex criminal network for 5 years without anyone noticing? That question haunted the federal courtroom in April 2025, where Rick stood silent and gaunt, his eyes vacant. Then the irregularities began to surface. Details about the FBI's Pale Pawn operation leaked on X before Rick's arrest, with the hashtag #RickHarrison death sentence spreading like wildfire, sending the media into a frenzy. News articles quoted anonymous sources describing surveillance footage and handwritten ledgers, yet none of the evidence could be independently verified. A key witness, who claimed to be a trafficking victim, vanished shortly after testifying. Was this FBI negligence or the signs of a calculated smear campaign? Further doubt arose with the emergence of linked companies. RH Acquisitions LLC, allegedly a front for Rick, traced back to shadowy figures in Dubai and Serbia. Their names were unknown, but their ties to powerful conglomerates were undeniable. One leaked encrypted email revealed Rick had signed off on a $120,000 shipment of Persian ceramic vases, yet he never received the goods. Was Rick merely a puppet, drawn into a network meant to shield a far more dangerous organization? A trembling former gold and silver employee confessed, Rick didn't control everything. Someone else was calling the shots. The boldest theory? That Rick was just a front, a fall guy, used to take the fall for a criminal mastermind. The fame of Pawn Stars, once a perfect shield for crimes, might have become a double-edged sword, turning Rick into an easy target for destruction. And when the prosecutor presented a financial diagram placing Rick at the center of it all, one question lingered, heavy and unresolved. Was he the criminal or the victim of a social media-fueled conspiracy crafted to erase a symbol? The day the pawn shop king walked into the courtroom, Rick Harrison wasn't just facing the law. The media and the public had raised their judgmental blades high. Tabloid headlines flooded the airwaves. Pawn Stars starhead's human trafficking empire. Headlines screamed about illegal antiquities trade, money laundering, and organized abuse, turning Rick from an American dream icon into a criminal in the blink of an eye. On X, the hashtag #Rick Harrison death sentence exploded, reaching 4 million mentions within 24 hours, accompanied by furious posts, mocking memes, and analysis videos from anonymous channels. The media, like wildfire, had incinerated Rick's image before justice could even speak. The price of fame is brutal. As a star, Rick had lived under the spotlight, but when the accusations hit, that light became a blazing fire that scorched him. Could justice remain impartial when every move he made was scrutinized through the lens of sensationalism? News outlets didn't wait for evidence, citing anonymous sources about surveillance footage and fake ledgers, while the public, ravenous for drama, rushed to pass judgment. On X, fans who once adored Rick turned their backs, calling him a traitor. Comments like "I've watched Pawn Stars for 10 years, turns out it was all fake," spread across the platform. By the time the trial started, Rick had already been executed in the eyes of millions. No lawyer, no trial. This had a significant impact on Rick's family, from his elderly father to his son, who had appeared on Pawn Stars, enduring threats, judgmental glares from neighbors, and painful isolation. The gold and silver shop, once a point of pride, was now boycotted, overshadowed by malicious headlines. The media didn't just destroy Rick, they ripped apart the lives of those he loved. The public wasn't just an audience, they were a self-appointed jury. Every share of a hashtag, every angry post was like a hammer striking before the trial. But were they truly delivering justice, or were they just puppets being manipulated by the media? Posts on X, pushed up by algorithms, often came from anonymous accounts with unclear sources. Was the public seeking justice, or were they caught in a smear campaign designed to erase a star? As the prosecutor laid out the charting, with Rick at the center of the criminal network, one question hung heavy: was the public chasing justice, or merely following the flames of drama, ready to burn a symbol and forget the truth? Rick Harrison, the man who once flashed a bright smile before the cameras, leisurely bargaining over antiques in the heart of Las Vegas, now sits in silence in the courtroom, his eyes empty as though he has lost everything. The old videos, where Rick tells stories of history and teases his colleagues, which once convinced millions that he was a legitimate businessman, are now viewed with suspicion. Had we been watching a cleverly staged play all along? Rick is pragmatic, true. Rick is smart, undeniably. But are these traits enough to suggest he masterminded an international human trafficking and money laundering network, or was he merely a worker in a project designed by someone else? There are encrypted emails, surveillance footage, handwritten ledgers, but also too many gaps, too many murky details yet to be revealed. We see part of the truth, but the rest could very well be obscured by hands more powerful than Rick's. But a surprising detail from the FBI has only deepened the suspicions. A secret list of powerful figures, from tycoons to high-ranking officials, was found to be linked to the illegal antiquities trade. These names, hidden behind shady deals in the Middle East, could very well be the clear motive to make Rick disappear. As a television star, Rick is the perfect target to distract public attention, concealing their secrets. The gaps in the charges, the timely leaks of rumors, only reinforce the theory Rick may not be the criminal mastermind, but the victim of a drama orchestrated by someone else. In a world where the media shapes perceptions and justice often lags behind the viral spread of a hashtag, we must ask ourselves, who is Rick Harrison? A cold, dark architect manipulating audiences for over a decade, or a loyal pawn caught in a game he couldn't even fully see? When the spotlight fades, only one haunting question remains: are we witnessing the downfall of a villain or the triumph of deception? Perhaps the greatest lesson lies not in whether Rick Harrison is a criminal or a victim, but in how we, ordinary people, need to learn to view the world as more complex than what is presented before us. In a society where everything is easily painted either in rosy hues or darkened shadows, we often forget that people are not simply black or white. Great crimes sometimes hide behind a facade of kindness, and those who are convicted may be victims of underground forces or the fateful mistakes of destiny. It's easy to turn someone into a symbol or a monster, but this very ease of judgment is what makes us vulnerable to manipulation and misdirection. The lesson here is this: stay alert, even when everyone around you is either outraged or praising. Don't rush to love, and don't rush to hate. Instead of idolizing or condemning, learn to ask questions and accept that the truth is often complicated and never comfortable. This world is not simple. And sometimes, the wisest thing we can do is to embrace that complexity without losing kindness, selective skepticism, or a heart that knows how to think. In the end, Rick Harrison's case is not just the downfall of a television icon, but also a warning about how the truth can be obscured beneath a glossy surface. Allegations of human trafficking, money laundering, and organized crime have revealed the dark side of a man once beloved. However, this also raises a bigger question. Have we truly seen the whole truth, or is this just a part of a deeper conspiracy? A whirlwind of rumors clouding everyone's judgment. And is Rick Harrison really the culprit, or merely a pawn in a power game we don't fully understand? Has this story ended, or is it just the beginning of a greater secret waiting to be exposed?